It's the Weekly Wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And now for my favorite part of the show, wherein we reveal the background of Tim today. And I'm going to say, I'm always going with Hunter Biden. He's swaddled himself in the Constitution of the United States with emphasis on the Second Amendment. Am I right about that?
Swaddled himself in the Constitution and the red scarf. But no, you are not right. We're
yeah. Oh, okay.
We're here at
here we go.
Right there at the empty auto plant.
At the empty auto plant. And oh yeah, well, of course you're a Detroit guy. I should have figured that it would be close to home. Did you have anybody in your family who worked UAW worker?
I think everybody in my family probably worked at an auto plant at least once in their life. I did it over a couple summers. Put together 77 Broncos, and if you have one, put on the left side motor mount. So if you have anybody who has a memory of a 77 Bronco with the motor falling out, it's right here.
It would have been nice had you made the Bronco faultily because you weren't all that good, and OJ had been driving in it, and with all counts, and it had broken down on the expressway or the freeway, whatever. They
left side motor mounts and dipsticks, and I know that I put some 6-cylinder dipsticks into V8 engines.
Oh my God! I mean. That's like finding a hair in my pad thai. I mean, that's just it's horrible. Well, we'll get more. We'll get on the UAW strike in a moment. But first, I love how Chris decides what the rundown is, what he thinks is important, and I enjoy this too. I wouldn't have made it the lead, but that's fine. Ibram X Kendi is a fraud. Did you see this story about Kendi?
So we're no longer a news program, huh?
Exactly. But did you see? Did you see Kendi apparently was given millions of dollars for his research center to find out about racism and to cure racism, which he sees as inspiring just about everything that leads to inequality, and apparently they came up with, like, in the amount of time that he had this money, like 2 research papers, and that was about it, and a few op-eds, and it was a scam.
Well, no, it was legitimate research. He took millions of dollars to do nothing and wait for the racists to attack him over it.
Sure. And look, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, it's the gift that never stops giving, because obviously the fact that he is so incompetent is a result of our racism. It's and he should be given even more. That's the answer. And the answer to bad government is more government. The answer to inequality is even more inequality, apparently. The headline says Boston University announces inquiry into Ibram Kendi's Center for Anti-Racist Research. Now, what I'm wondering, though, about is if he could charge Elon Musk for the use of X, does he have a trademark on X? And maybe Musk will have to pay him royalties. I notice Musk is trying to get as much money as he can from people. He's going to be charging money for what we used to call Twitter. Did I hear it's like $60 a year? That's a number that was floated.
I think that's if you want to be a blue check account.
I thought it was just if you wanted to have Twitter, period. And I'd actually be somewhat in favor of it because it might get rid of the riffraff. The problem is
like yourself.
Right, but that's one of the things. But the problem is also that many of the people who follow me and comment are riffraff, and so it might become a little too exclusive. But I'd be
most of my followers are third world women who think I'm lonely.
Wait a minute! I thought they thought I was lonely. And you always click on the name, and it's like 0 followers, and and just for that nanosecond, you wanted to think, oh yeah, but they're not. Well, all right. Well, speaking of frauds, I never even heard of this person, so I don't even know if I have standing to talk about it. But there's this guy named Hasan Minhaj. He is, of an ilk of Ibram X Kendi, according to this tweet, National Review. Stand-up comedian Hasan Minhaj revealed that many elements of his routines portraying himself to be the victim of racism in America were fabricated. Well, so what? I mean, we had a president of the United States who wrote a best-selling autobiography called Dreams from My Father, Barack Obama, who made up all these characters who were victims of racism in his childhood when they were probably just smoking part of his chum gang in Hawaii. And yes, I will repeat it. I know I've said it before, but Andrew Ferguson, then of the Weekly Standard, compared Dreams from My Father with the comprehensive biography of Obama by David Moranis, which mentioned every single person who was ever in Barack Obama's life. And there was nobody even remotely connected, not even if you put the composites together to come up with these racially victimized characters that Obama says were composites in his book. So I see what Hasan Minhaj did is, it's truthiness, as Stephen Colbert, when he was funny, would say. And actually I saw a quote from him the other day saying, or just today, saying that Minhaj was defending what he was saying because they were emotional truths, even if they weren't factually true. I mean, it's like Dan Rather's report on George Bush. It was, it could have been true.
It's not really truthiness. It's more like juiciness, as in small
all
a.
right, well, it's fine.
It's and what the difference between him and Obama is that nobody read Obama's book. I mean, maybe the reviewers might have read it, but nobody read it. He wasn't elected president because of his book. Yeah, the reviewers read it. It was one of those books that you'd buy to put on your shelf so you look like you're well read.
Right.
Nobody read it.
Right.
Hasan Minhaj, his entire career was based on these accusations of discrimination and victimhood. So it's a little bit of a different situation. He had a show, I think it was on Netflix, a Patriot Act. And I actually had a friend that worked as a writer. For Patriot Act. Said it was a pretty toxic environment as well.
Oh, really? So not only was he a liar, but he was a bad guy. It was like the Jimmy Fallon of
he's a liar and a jerk.
And a liar and a jerk. I mean, I could understand one or the other, but I have, and of course we're going to recuse you from commenting on this because you're just envious of Hasan Minhaj.
I'm envious of anyone with success.
Me too. I mean,
we were two of a kind on that.
Yeah, we're both the same,
Bruce.
Yeah, we're both waiting for that. That Scandinavian girl who just joined Twitter to follow us. No, because while you're putting V6 dipsticks in V8s, Hasan Minhaj is hauling in big coin at the Wild Goose in Schererville, Indiana, I guess, as a comedian. Well, all right.
For making up stories about being thrown on a hood and
sure.
What else?
Were they at least funny? Was he at least funny when he was making up the stories? I mean, I don't mind you making up stuff. I mean, like, for example, we know that not all jokes the comedians tell are true. For example, a grasshopper walks into a bar and he tells the bartender is astonished and says, we have a drink named for you. And the grasshopper says, you mean we have a drink named Larry? That didn't actually happen.
Yeah, it's also not a joke. So that's two lies there.
What are you talking about? It's like my favorite when people start telling bar jokes. That's my one bar joke that I remember, and I always tell it. All right. So speaking of people who don't deserve any attention, did you see that CNN's ratings have dropped off the face of the earth? Apparently on the weekend, and weekend's not a big time for that kind of stuff anyway, but they had 55,000 viewers nationally. Wow. I mean, that's the kind you could get that kind of, Fox 32 News in the morning, I think, can get 55,000 viewers.
I think we've got that many.
We might actually. And CNN, and it couldn't happen to some nicer fellas, because apparently what CNN did was they were going to reform themselves and, stop being the MSNBC imitators.
Sure.
And then they fired this guy who had a bad profile of him written in the Atlantic, and he wasn't a great leader, whatever. And they've gone back to being leftists. And there's a lot of cynical speculation, and it may be true that they're just trying to, they're figuring that the ratings will go up during the election season, and then they can sell this piece of crap. But no sense in trying to redeem it by drifting to the center.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They drifted to the center, so they lost the left. They lost all the leftists that were paying any attention to them, and the right still doesn't trust them. So, I mean, what?
Right. Yes. So they're in a difficult situation. So back to the UAW strike just for a second. I mean, I can't believe the kind of money that these guys are asking for. $300,000 in a 32-hour work week. And I know that's just an opener there, but it's like, I mean, are you kidding me?
Well, the $300,000, I haven't seen the breakdown on the $300,000. I'm a little, I don't doubt it when you factor in all the benefits and pensions. I don't doubt it, but I haven't really seen the breakdown. So that's until I actually.
Well, let me ask you this: are these guys actually skilled? These auto workers?
I couldn't do it. As I told you, I was sticking V8. I was sticking V8.
Yeah, but I mean, I imagine it always being like Lucy in the Chocolate Factory, Lucille Ball, and all she has to do is put the chocolates in, but she gets a little.
There is a skill. You have to. It's like a bit of a routine. You have to be coordinated. You have to be quick. You have to be able to see an engine coming down the line and know which parts are you going to have to stick in your hand.
And you know what engine's coming down the line? The electric vehicles coming down the line. It's going to throw it's going to totally bankrupt the big three. It's done.
Well, it's already the electric.
There won't be UAW and there won't be General Motors. What?
The EVs are already eating up half of Ford profit right now.
It's going to be gone.
No, you still need someone to put them. You still need someone to put them together.
They're going to wipe out. They're actually going to wipe them out. We have that to look forward to. Plus, there's going to be. Do you think you have? They're going to be AI cars. There's got to be AI UAW workers too. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap.
Biden Day a moment ago. As his father pushes for stricter gun laws, Hunter Biden will allegedly cite his Second Amendment if charged with breaking a federal gun law, which tees up a high-profile showdown over the right to bear arms and that could be decided at the U.S. Supreme Court. Lucas Tomlinson's running down that story today for us. Hey, Lucas, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Hunter Biden's Second Amendment champion. That's one way to rebel against your family. Former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree reacting to this new apparent strategy.
If you said that Hunter Biden is going to be the poster boy for expanding Second Amendment rights, a lot of liberals' heads would explode.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. And, I love the irony of this. Hunter Biden is going to hide behind the Second Amendment to the Constitution as interpreted by the Trump court. And it goes against everything that his father believes. His father has been a gun rights advocate. He's going to say that the gun statute is unconstitutional because drug addicts should be able to wield guns and dispose of them and around schools and and that they're protected by the Bruin decision.
Well, he might have a point there, though. That's the interesting part about this is it legal to do are background checks constitutionally legal? I mean, it's I don't know that the federal government has that authority, even though they've seized it.
I don't know that is that what they're hanging their head on, the background checks. I just.
Yeah, I think it's what his point is that he doesn't think there should have been a background check in the first place. So what if
there shouldn't be? Well, if you're a druggie, you should be able to have a gun. I think maybe the argument. I'm not exactly sure, but I know it is a liberal interpretation of an expansive interpretation to the Second Amendment, the kind of which you get from the Trump appointees to the Supreme Court, the very people that Joe Biden wants off the court.
Sure.
And it's
Sure.
it's
it'd be fun to see it go all the way to the Supreme Court, and then have to have them say, no, I didn't really mean that. I just don't think I'd do well in jail.
Exactly. Meanwhile, Merrick Garland did testify. Well, yesterday, the day we were taping, and he was very emotional. I understand from my secondhand knowledge of this, and we all know what happened here. You have to have all this theater in Congress. I mean, the fix was in.
Yeah,
that's the simplest explanation.
Yeah,
and the prosecutor should have, and Merrick Garland should have hired an independent prosecutor. He didn't do it because the fix was in. I mean, what else do you need here? And the thing is,
so he hired the guy. He hired the guy who engineered the sweetheart plea deal.
Right. I mean,
to be the independent prosecutor.
Yeah, the whole thing. And the funny thing is I think the latest statistic I saw said something like 7 or 8 or maybe even 9 out of 10, maybe even 9 out of 10 people think that Joe Biden benefited financially from being the president. I mean, it's just so nobody's buying this stuff, any of this stuff. But we have to go through the theater. And the funny thing is, I mean, you're not even going to need an impeachment. It's the damage continues to be done to Joe Biden, but
an impeachment of Biden, but I have a feeling that they're working on an impeachment of Merrick Garland, which I believe is also warranted.
Well, it might be, but judging by what was said yesterday, they didn't get too much, but there might be grounds. There might be grounds for that.
I'm not sure who it was. One of the congressmen actually said that to him, is that the president should be impeached and so should you. So it's not off the table.
Yeah, no, it isn't. But it will be if the Republicans can't hold a house. Meantime, hey, our good friend Rahm was making news.
Oh,
he's the ambassador to Japan, and why was that job so attractive to Rahm Emanuel?
I think it was because it was he wanted to feel tall.
Yeah. So, and another way he feels tall is the same way that I do. He gets snarky on Twitter. I love this. He's the ambassador to Japan. No, Rahm, you have to understand. You can't. The whole idea of being an ambassador is you're a diplomat. You're a liar. Okay, you don't get. And he started making snarky comments about China, and I'm figuring that he was just trying to pander to his Japanese hosts by doing that. I don't know if they want him to do that because it's a delicate situation. But I mean, do we have any of those tweets that they were pretty snarky about what's going on in China right now, and I can't recall what any of them were, but he was saying some bad things about China, and he was told by the Biden administration to cool it. To deep six it like he did the Quan McDonald tape, for crying out loud, Rahm. So
lose it like it was a
it's
finger.
Just interesting. Yeah, right. No, I mean it's just interesting that he was acting so undiplomatic that way. I mean, everybody knows what you do as a diplomat, and you don't go on Twitter. And that's Trumpian what he did, and maybe he's just frustrated. It's probably.
Well, there's no love lost between the Japan and China. I mean,
I understand that, but
they haven't forgotten WW2.
No, I get it, and I think may have been the basis, a motivating factor for Rahm. But the problem is that the powers that be in Japan probably don't like the American ambassador doing that kind of thing.
Well, they might get a kick out of it.
Yeah. Anyway, Chris, our producer, says looks like the tweets have been deleted. Well, I mean, they weren't that well. They were bad for an ambassador, but it was just interesting. So, meantime, back at home, I guess it's called Christ Church in Alexandria, Virginia, decided that they were going to take down a statue of George Washington that's in the church because slaveholder, And and you know, we always thought, you know, what's the next thing? I mean, you talk about a slippery slope.
That's going to take a lot of work to get that face off of Rushmore too.
Sure, and that's been considered, and you know, we're gonna do in the founding fathers. It was interesting, and I think Michael Brennan Doherty in the National Review sounded the alarm about this, and I agree with him about it. And then this local guy, Frank Sennett, who works for Cranes, and he's a pretty smart guy, but he said, hey, throughout the world's history, leading figures have been reconsidered and recontextualized for the current moment, and what of it? My second thought, wait till this guy, Michael Brendan Doherty, hears about Hamilton, the musical. Well, but here's the point, Frank. Hamilton actually found George Washington praiseworthy. Yeah, sure, they wanted to put him in a different color, fine. But Lin Miranda Manuel actually was extolling the virtues of the revolutionaries. And as a matter of fact, I think at some point, you know, Hamilton got culturally canceled as well by the leftists. You know, I would ask Ibram X Kendi for his views on this, but he doesn't have enough staff anymore to go into it. But it's just interesting. George Washington, I'm kind of glad I'm not going to be around in about 20, 30 years when there won't be any Washington Monument or Lincoln Memorial. And
well, I grew up that the worst thing that Washington ever did was chop down the cherry tree.
Sure.
But it was okay because he didn't tell a lie about it. That's what I remember. So it's
So
I guess he would have been an admitted slave owner too. I'm guessing he wouldn't tell a lie about that either.
I mean, to me, the thing that really bugged me about Washington was, you know, he wrote these letters to Sally Fairfax, and everybody says he was just friends with her, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Have you read the letters? Did they get a little?
No, I mean, I just
heard about them.
Yeah, you're writing letters here. I think it was a problem there for the president of the United States to do that. Probably should have been impeached. Never served a second term. Speaking of impeached presidents, Donald Trump, he's been having some problems, although nothing seems to affect his ability to garner the GOP nomination. But he has not come down on the pro-life side on abortion bans. He is against the 6-week abortion ban, and he could jeopardize some of his votes with the evangelicals, couldn't he, by doing that?
Yeah, but he could also gain some votes of some young people who realize it's 6 weeks. I mean, a lot of people don't realize they're pregnant for 6 weeks.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And even a guy like Kevin Williamson, who, you know, who lost his job at the Atlantic because they dug up an old comment of his that abortion providers should be hanged or something like that, or women should be hanged if they have abortion, something like that, which he didn't really believe. But even he lives in Texas, I think a number of months ago said probably would be prudent to go with a 15-week ban in Texas. I mean, but the 6-week is
the trouble is
right now, and it's probably going to hurt the Republicans.
The trouble is that they can hear that heartbeat really early, and that's they didn't. Yeah, I think when they started instituting semantics. I think when they started instituting the idea of a heartbeat ban, they didn't realize it was they could do it at 6 weeks now. So I think it was a science.
Well, I mean, and there's the matter of semantics. You hear people saying that, oh, that's not really a heartbeat. Well, it is. So that's the problem. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Biden Day a moment ago. As his father pushes for stricter gun laws, Hunter Biden will allegedly cite his Second Amendment if charged with breaking a federal gun law, which tees up a high-profile showdown over the right to bear arms and that could be decided at the U.S. Supreme Court. Lucas Tomlinson's running down that story today for us. Hey, Lucas, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Hunter Biden's Second Amendment champion. That's one way to rebel against your family. Former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree reacting to this new apparent strategy.
If you said that Hunter Biden is going to be the poster boy for expanding Second Amendment rights, a lot of liberals' heads would explode.
Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. And yeah, I don't know about you, but Senator Durbin, like just today, said that, yeah, with all due respect to Senator Fetterman, I think that we need a dress code here. And, if Senator Durbin is in favor of it, I'm again it. So, I mean, all for Fetterman walking around like, I don't know. What does he look like? A UPS driver? Who, by the way, make probably as much as senators do right now.
No, UPS drivers have smart uniforms.
That's true.
He doesn't even look like a UPS driver. He looks like a guy in the unemployment, like a carpenter in the unemployment line. That's what he looks like to me.
Okay. Well, I'm just in favor of, here I am, talking about the Washington Monument and things that are treasured to me, and they are, but I don't mind it for some reason when, we get more casual about our esteemed leaders, because we posit, too much faith in what they can do. They really aren't that great, and we don't need them making it in an ever larger government that gets us $33 trillion in debt. So I mean, I like something that diminishes the prestige of these wonderful houses of Congress.
I'm on the other side. I think if you're going to show up for the Senate, you need to put on the uncomfortable clothes. You need to take the time to get dressed. It's kind of like a school uniform. It's if I ran a school, the kids would all be in uniforms, and that's what I think about the Senate. I don't understand how this this actually happened. Did Fetterman lodge a protest, or is he incapable of tying a tie? What is actually the reason why?
I'm not sure that he knows that he's dressed casually right now. So, and I half expect Dianne Feinstein to be walking in her underwear into the Senate one of these days. Whoopsie, where am I right now? It's well, it's probably my own bias. I worked at for years. I worked at Channel 32, and the joke was that I wore the same blue blazer every day, and part of it was to mock, the pretense that you were getting some kind of sophisticated information from a local Yonkel newscast. But part of it was it's just easy to just grab it off the rack every day and put it on. And the thing got so threadbare, it was like totally falling apart, the same blue sports jacket, that it was very funny. They retired the sports jacket and hung it up in the rafters. We had a whole ceremony with ZZ Top's Well-Dressed Man in the background. And so I was notorious for doing that. If you notice, I wear this same shirt, which was my father's, like every one of our little podcasts. So so that's kind of my bias there. And I just like the fact that the thing about Fetterman is they're trying to dress the guy up as if he is capable of being a U.S. senator, when in fact we know that he isn't. So at least he's wearing, well, see, that's the blue blazer, and it doesn't look all that bad right there in the picture of me playing electric
it's
football.
Wolf's World. I didn't realize that segment dates back that far. I thought it was just something. I just thought it was something Chris made up.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I like the fact that they say clothes make the man, and John Fetterman's clothes fit his mental capacity right now. So, I mean, he's not defrauding anybody that way.
Well, I knew for a while he needed that hoodie on the back to hide that huge lump coming out of his neck.
Okay.
But the last pictures I've seen of him, that lump seems to have abated. It doesn't seem. It seems like he had the his Siamese twin removed. So I don't know why he can't. Yeah, I don't know why he can't get dressed.
Wear a suit and tie. As far as lump goes, yeah, he is like Marty Feldman in Young Frankenstein. What lump? But
well, actually, he's more like the monster. It's the putting on the Ritz
both
scene.
Of them. He's like both of them. So are we going to have a government shutdown? I haven't been following this. I know McCarthy suffered a defeat about the defense appropriations, but and there's all these writers, that the fringe groups want on the budget, with Ukraine, immigration, no abortion transports for military personnel, and Mitch McConnell, to the extent that he's conscious, and he's not walking around in his underwear in the Senate, says that anytime there's a budget shutdown, government shutdown, it hurts the Republicans. So are we just walking into another trap?
Yeah, isn't that nice, Mitch? It's like, yeah, if a shutdown happens, it's the Republicans' fault. Oh,
right,
great,
right.
Mitch. I'm glad to know you're on the team.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it may be true. Hey, more hypocrisy from the Chicago Teachers Union. When we last left you, the president of the Chicago Teachers Union, who basically ran on the plank that she sent her kids to Chicago public schools, and then it turns out that she has a kid in a Catholic school on the South Side. She also is fighting, according to Austin Berg, pretty good watchdog, that for $150 million tax hike on Chicago real estate sales to fund public housing, when the Chicago Teachers Union apparently had subsidized housing at one point, and they were going to help. I think they were going to help out retired teachers with it. They sold that for $50 million and used that $50 million to build a new Chicago Teachers Union headquarters. So they're all in favor of taxing everybody to get public housing, but they won't put their money up for public housing. It's got to be, to help them gild the lily. Yeah, it's fascinating. There's just one story after another with that Chicago Teachers Union. Yet, I mean, nobody's stopping them. They've got their own puppet as the mayor of the city.
So is that 150 million? That's on top of the 500 million that deficit that.
Well, I mean, we got the $500 million deficit. I don't know how the 150 million. Yeah, right. Does that add?
Is it in it or on top? Because I imagine it's on top, and it's for housing. Is that?
That's going to be for public housing. They got what was it, 30 million that he just snuck in for the migrants, and that's in addition to everything else
for the tent
cities. Which are they going to hold up in the winter? That's going to be interesting. So let's close this segment by talking about Warren Buffett. Apparently was interviewed, and I think I didn't actually read the interview, but I think it was that he's kind of worried that he's going to be going the way of Jimmy Buffett pretty soon. And he said that he really doesn't need money anymore. It's all about time. When you get older, I mean, wouldn't you agree? He said, if there was anything left on my bucket list, I would have done it. Money has no utility to me. Time has utility to me. Yeah, right. And as we get older, I mean, wouldn't you agree, Tim? Because you're long past your UAW years, as am I, that time is of the essence, and we shouldn't be. You shouldn't be squandering it away doing a podcast that no one listens to. Absolutely not. and you know what? This all reminds me of what the Misfits said near the end of "A Good Man Is Hard to Find," the Flannery O'Connor short story, maybe her most famous one. Right after he shoots the grandmother, and he says she would have been a good woman if it had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life. And there's a way when you're facing death that it rivets your attention, and you want to make the best use of your time. Have we made it made the best use of it so far in this podcast? I'm not so sure, but we still have
we still have to stretch. So.
We still have one more segment, and actually one more minute in this segment. Did I say to you, repeating our top story, if Dick Durbin's in favor of it, I'm against it. So I'm against the I'm against the dress code. I actually saw a picture of Durbin. He was walking in ahead of Fetterman, and it's like, oh, I can't believe this. I mean, yeah,
Are all the senators going to start coming in a little more relaxed? Are they? I mean, they're going to be wearing.
They're not going to do that. I mean, they need that. They absolutely need that. I mean, I'm looking at this picture of Fetterman right now. I mean, and he just does not look like a U.S. senator. There's got to be a certain look. I mean, it's got to be that Mitch McConnell deer in the headlights. I've just suffered an ischemic stroke look. That's the look.
Well, he won the election fair and square, right?
Oh, I mean, sure he did.
He was the duly elected senator.
I think did I read that Pennsylvania was going to have automatic voter registration when you get your ID or driver's license, which I mean, I got to look into this further. Does that mean that illegals who can get voter driver's licenses are also registered to vote at that time?
Yeah, they're just going to send out thousands and thousands of ballots to everybody, and
it sounds good. It should be raining ballots. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap.
We've met before. Are you looking for Reagan? Are you looking for Reagan?
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. So, yeah. As you know, my January 6th is not the one that happened, that funny little thing in the Capitol. It was January 6, 1974, when at the Lawrencewood Theater, I saw The Exorcist without having known what exactly an exorcism was. I hadn't read the book, and I didn't sleep. Well, I still sleep with the light on. So, and I remember the date of that I saw the movie. Now, all of a sudden, I'm seeing this ad for this sequel to The Exorcist. And it's almost as scary as the original movie was. I can't look at it. But we've become so inured to this stuff. I mean, anybody could see this. The kids could see these ads, and I'm just a fuddy-duddy, aren't I?
By the time I saw The Exorcist, it looked silly to me. It never frightened me. It's because I knew all the surprises that were coming, and maybe because I wasn't sitting in a darkened theater that I saw it on TV,
right,
with a bowl of beer nuts in front of me.
It's a totally different experience.
Yeah,
it's completely different. I mean, and I remember, and I think I mentioned this before. I wanted to show my kids Psycho, and I remember being told the story of Psycho without having seen the movie, and I was scared.
Well, it was a local story, right? Wasn't that was one of...
Well, the local story about Psycho was they were going to show it on TV, and they did not, because I believe Valerie Percy, the daughter of Senator Chuck Percy, I may have this confused, was killed like shortly before they were going to show that movie on TV, and they thought it would be bad taste to show the movie. I think
I meant the story that the Psycho was based on. That was
it's based on the Bates Motel. Was like what, in Vernon Hills?
No,
I mean,
no, it was Wisconsin, but it was like southern Wisconsin. Was it Ed Gein? Wasn't it Ed Gein? Was that who it was based on?
That's not Ed. That's not Ed Gein, is it? I'm not sure. Here we're having our senior moments right now, and I'm kind of enjoying it here in the fourth.
I don't have my serial killer flashcards in front of me, but it was but yeah, the interesting thing about the shower scene in Psycho is that you never see her get stabbed.
Well, right. What I'm saying is that I showed this movie to my kids, and I was saying, this is one of the great, thrillers.
This is
It's
going to
Hitchcock,
disturb
it's
you.
fantastic. And they were laughing because, like they said, not only do you not see Janet Leigh getting stabbed, even the shadows. I mean, the knife is like 10 feet away. It's nothing compared to what you get right now. So
I remember the one that really got me when I was a kid was The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds.
Yeah, there was another one that I showed the kids, and they walked out of the theater, which was our basement, when I saw it. Wait a minute, Tippi Hedren's going to be attacked.
My sister showed it to my nieces and said this was a real scary film for my children, and they died laughing through the entire thing. And what I think it is that film rhetoric has changed that much. Just like our generation, when we would watch like the silent film, it doesn't matter if it was a horrible, scary film like Nosferatu. It looks silly to us because the film rhetoric was so over exaggerated for silent films. And I think it was kind of the same thing with that, was that it just changed, and it takes a lot more to shock kids now.
Right. And I'm getting word in my imaginary headphones right now, my imaginary earpiece, that in fact this the book was based on Ed Gein. So
yeah.
So there you go.
I know my serial killers.
Yeah, you're really good at that. Speaking of long ago episodes, I don't know why I turned to this, but somebody was mentioning the Jump the Shark episode in Happy Days, which has become a trope.
Sure.
Is it
somebody pointed out to me that Jump the Shark is actually Jumped the Shark.
Yeah, it's Fonzie actually is jumping the shark, and I saw an interview with Ron Howard about that episode, and he tried, and Ron Howard even lampooned it in Arrested Development, which he created and directed, or he directed it. And when he has Henry Winkler, who plays a Jewish lawyer in Arrested Development, they're on a pier, and he actually jumps over like a dead shark and says, "I'm hungry. I'm going to Burger King right now." And and it's an homage to Fonzie, who Henry Winkler apparently was a good water skier, and they had that episode. But according to Ron Howard, Donnie Most, who was on the show, said, "Oh." When he looked at the script, said, "What are we doing here? I mean, why are we having Fonzie, doing this?" So he recognized that, and it wasn't the best. It wasn't the most creative thing. But as Ron Howard points out, Happy Days had a number of good seasons after that, so it was still somewhat creative. But yeah, it's become, a symbol of, when a series goes wayward. It's usually when they bring a celebrity in, and just to spice things up. That's when a series,
or when they adopt a kid.
Okay, there you go.
When it's when it's all the kids have grown up, so they have to adopt a kid, so they still have that family dynamic in a show.
Right. Exactly. The I'm going to say
that's what we should do now that Jump the Shark has jumped the shark, Bruce. We should start calling it "That's Really Adopted an Orphan."
Okay, yeah, we could change it. Jump the Shark is outlived its usefulness.
No, I'm sorry. Orange is the New Black has adopted an orphan.
Yeah. Speaking of orange, the Bears were wearing that on Sunday against Tampa. They lost the game. This week they lost their defensive coordinator. A lot of rumors at Hallis Hall about that. I mean, I can't even speak the rumors. Some of them are really bad, but there's as of this writing, nobody knows exactly what's going on and why he's out. And then Justin Fields, the quarterback, first he blamed his coaches, then he took back the blame against his coaches. I'm very worried because the Bears are playing Kansas City at 3:25 p.m. on Sunday. Yom Kippur, the most religious day of the year for me, begins at sundown that night, which is at 6:45. If the game goes into overtime and the Bears have the ball on the Chiefs' 1 yard line with 5 seconds left, and it's 6:44:56, do I pull a Koufax and not watch it? And so that's the concern that I have.
Well, you have a DVR, right?
It's not the same. It's not the same. You want to see it. Of course, it's not going to happen. The Bears are 12.5 point underdogs.
Yeah, but if you're sticking to it, you shouldn't be watching TV or listening to the radio or anything like that. So you won't if you DVR it, you won't know until sundown the following day.
No, I understand it. I understand, but it's just not the same when you don't see it live. And I wouldn't see it live, but it's not the same DVR.
Even when you're isolated. Even when you have no idea, even though you've it might have. Isn't it on a 10-second delay? So when you see it, it's already not live.
I'm just telling you, this actually isn't ripe for consideration right now. I shouldn't be concerned about it because the Bears are not going to be anywhere close. The game's going to be over long before I have to start fasting on Sunday.
The Bears season has definitely adopted an orphan.
There we go. So, although you never know, this could be the given Sunday. I know that's Pollyannish of me, but I tend to be contrarian. The thing that I worry about that bothers me is I think that there's a racial over or undertone regarding Justin Fields, and it's like they're not letting him do his thing because he's a black quarterback and he can, freelance and run around the field and doesn't have to sit back in the pocket which is the white man's game. It's always something. I'm not saying they're Justin Fields has wandered into Ibram X Kendi territory at this point, blaming everybody because he's trying to be a team player. But sometimes I get that feeling that you just can't criticize him. And there is so much video of the guy missing wide open receivers. I mean, don't they test these guys before they draft them? Like have them play Madden football and see if he can spot the receivers. I would think so. Anyway, there's a story. That a Florida teacher was fired because she read an adapted version of Anne Frank's diary to her students. And Randy Weingarten, the nutcase, who is the head of the National Teachers Union, tweeted out or said that the teacher was fired because she was teaching Anne Frank's diary. That's not really true, of course. It was that there's an adapted version, which actually does have some original words from Anne Frank about, very private and sexual things that a young girl might, feel when she's growing up. Remember, Anne Frank maybe didn't even want everybody to read her diary. She wasn't planning on dying and having her diary become public. So it's not the worst thing in the world that they excised some of the things for use for kids in school, and it's certainly at least something that reasonable people could differ on. But then you get hysterics like Randy Weingarten saying she's fired for teaching Anne Frank's diary, which just isn't true. I mean, so go to hell, Randy Weingarten. I mean, seriously.
So what happened? It was somebody got a hold of the original diary and put. No, I mean
they've had it for a long time, and her father, who was in charge of the diary, or whatever, originally did not want to have those parts, given to the public or to schools. I mean, it's always a blast. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.